All right, welcome everyone to the WFRC TAC meeting for July 27th. I'm Ryan Kump. I am chairing this meeting because both the regular chair and vice chair are out of town, and somehow I got lucky. And so I'm here at WFRC with Ben and Rosie, and excuse me, I'm not sure, Bill. And lots of empty chairs and cookies, so I'm just gonna eat them all by myself. You guys are at your offices. Any rate, the agenda today, one item, number 3, will not be done, the Riverton City Project Report. They were unable to join us for this today, so we'll push them off. So a shorter agenda, but I'll go right into item number 1, action item. We need to approve both the March 30th and the May 25th meeting minutes. So I'll first look for a motion on March 30th.
This is Chris Northern. Oh, I second.
Got a second, still looking for a first.
Oh, Matt Gray. Actually, yep.
Can you hear me?
There we
Hi
go.
there.
Yeah, motion to approve from Cottonwood.
Great. And the second with Chris Norlam. So all in favor? This is kind of weird. How do you do this usually online when you can't see them?
They call for ayes or raised hands.
Okay, does anyone have any changes to the minutes or opposes having those approved as written? All right, without seeing anyone, those meetings will be approved. Next, May 25th minutes.
Hey, Ryan, Trey from Murray City. I'll make a motion to approve the May 25th minutes.
Thanks, Trey.
I'll second that. John from Mill Creek.
Thanks, John. All right, anyone have any changes or opposed approval of the minutes as written? Not seeing any. May 25th minutes are approved. With that, I will go right to item 2 and have Ben go through TIP business.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, everyone. Good to be with you here this afternoon. We've got some business that we need to perform on the Transportation Improvement Program. We first have a board modification to the 2022-2027 TIP. That's our current or existing Transportation Improvement Program. This project is PIN 17867. It's a project in Magna. It's on 2820 South. And the full project extent goes between 7736 West to 7440 West. Over the years, you may recall that these were projects that we were approving section by section. These are TAP funded projects. There were 3 sections that over the course of 3 or 4 years were evaluated and recommended by this body and then approved by the regional council. We've combined all those projects. Oh, that's all right. Thank you, Ryan. We've combined these projects so that all the projects could move forward as one single project, giving us a benefit there in cost savings. However, with the current engineer's estimate, it is about $1 million+ short. Currently, there's about 938,000, almost 939,000 funded. With the federal funds and the local match. The engineer's estimate is 1.9+ million, so we're just over $1 million short. Magna is requesting that WFRC bring an additional 815,000 plus, and they are committed to bring an additional 300,000 plus, or 300,000 to the project. As many of you are aware, the additional funding is needed due to the recent cost increases in both labor and materials. The desire here is to prepare so that this project could advertise later this year, first and next, and then be constructed next year. That would be the board mod before us, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Ben. Any questions or discussion on the modification? I'm not seeing any questions or comments, so would anyone like to make a motion on this?
Ryan, I do have a comment. Sorry, I'm slow on the unmute button.
You're fine.
Just a question that perhaps Ben could address. I'm sure this is one of many projects that are currently underfunded with TAP or SDP funds. What is there a procedure we have going forward should multiple other projects come forward asking WFRC for additional funds? Is there a process or procedure to do that? Or perhaps I'm just the only one that has seen great increases in costs.
No, John, thank you. That is a good question. And actually, unfortunately, not every project is coming in over engineer's estimate. So it's been a good process as normal, but there are quite a few cost increases at this particular time of season or season in the process. So the procedure for doing that is as those concerns are beginning to elevate or as they are identified in a project, the project sponsor needs to make contact with myself. And then between me and the project manager and the UDOT programming manager and the project sponsor, we work together, we coordinate the efforts, and we identify the resources that potentially are available through either the city or the sponsor's resources, as well as other potential resources and in the resources from WFRC. So we coordinate those efforts, and then that information is prepared and it's presented to the Technical Advisory Committee. And then your recommendation then is elevated to TransCom and to the Regional Council for review and approval. That help, John?
Yeah, it seems like what we've kind of always done. I don't know if this is a special circumstance, different within the last 2 years with the inflationary costs of construction. If that we just still do that business as normal, or perhaps I guess other projects were funded anticipating the increases 3-4 years ago, that it's not an issue. I do know in Mill Creek, we potentially have a couple problems with some of our funded projects that I guess I will be talking to you shortly.
Thank you, John. I do need to commend that there's been several of our local governments here that over the past few months have had some pretty significant cost increase. But recognizing the environment they're in, have stepped up to the plate and been able to carry those cost increases. So we're all working together. There's limited resources amongst all of us, but the coordinated effort between everybody helps.
This is Ben White in Taylorsville. I have a question on, Ben, to your $1 million fund increase. The TAP fund looks like has about 3.8 million available annually. Where would this additional 1 million come from?
Great question, Ben. So what these funds will be, so it's about 800,000 that they're requesting from WFRC. And so fortunately, there are some cost savings of projects that have been closing out prior to our current date. So we've got a little cost savings there. The other part of that program will come from the front end. And so if necessary, projects that are going slow or that are not moving forward will be pushed back in the season. And so what this may entail is that when we come around to programming next year, in the next process, there'll be that much less to program for the future projects.
So Ben, a follow-up question. How much is available from completed projects that are that came in under the funded amount versus how much would need to be essentially allocated from future years?
Currently, Ben, I can't give you the exact amount, but we're somewhere in the neighborhood of about 175,000.
That's available from past projects?
Correct.
So I think kind of based on John's question leading into, I assume a concern is that this is the first of many dominoes as more and more projects are underfunded. But at this point in time, you, Ben, don't see there being a big stampede to increase projects as we go through the next cycle?
No, I don't see not a major concern. I mean, it's something that we're all aware of and that we're watching close. That's part of the reason why we like to encourage projects moving quicker and even combining several phases of a project so that we can get them out quicker. We can combine the phases and hopefully save money on the mobilization cost and other expenses related to construction. And another question was asked, is it first come, first serve? No, actually, these projects have been identified as priorities to the regional council. And so we will take care of the projects. We will work with the project sponsors and we will encourage project sponsors to step up to the plate, bringing resources. It impacts us all, but if we're all working together and trying to do the best we can to keep project costs down, I don't see a significant concern at this point.
Thanks, Ben. Any other questions or comments on this particular item, or do we have a motion?
Hey Ryan, this is Keith at Midvale. If there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to approve this board modification.
Cottonwood
Ryan,
Heights, second.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we have a motion and a second. Once again, it'd be due to the complication of everybody online. I'll ask for anyone opposed to this or anyone who wants to make a comment on the motion. Give it a moment here. Okay, not seeing anyone. That motion passes, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next item that we have an opportunity is, so this is the time of year when we are nearing the end of our public review and comment period for the new transportation improvement program. This would be the 2023 transportation improvement program, or 2023-2028 TIP. And what we wanted to do, where our public comment period, as you'll recall, the public comment period initiated on June 25th, and we'll conclude this coming Saturday on July 30th. So we've not yet heard everything that we potentially will hear, but what we'd like to do is review real quickly with the Technical Advisory Committee that information that is available for you. We would encourage members of the TAC committee to go online and check these items out and take opportunity to review projects in your communities, projects that you might be familiar with, and leave any comments with good concerns or otherwise. So if you were to go onto the website, and Bill's driving this for us, so you go onto the website and the second slider there is the draft 23-28 transportation improvement program. If you were to click on the provide input, what that'll bring you to is an interactive map. Now, the interactive map has all of the projects that are currently in the Transportation Improvement Program document, the draft document. And you can zoom right down on the project and you can select on the project. And what that'll enable you to do is it'll bring up additional information. It'll also give you an on-street Google view so you can go in and see at least what the current condition is when Google was out there filming. But it gives you a little more detail on the project and the surrounding area. And then there's a spot where you can leave a comment. And that enables us an opportunity to receive additional information from concerned citizens, from members of the TAC committee, anyone that wants to leave a comment. These comments then are gathered and then they are reviewed and responded to by staff and personnel from UDOT and personnel from UTA. So we work together, putting together a summary response for TransCom and the regional council. And today Wayne has a summary of the comments that we've received today. But we prepare this material and then working with UDOT and working with UTA, those questions or concerns are addressed when we're looking at a project. Case in point was a project years ago, well, a couple of years ago, on the 600 North when they were reconstructing or they were resurfacing, rehabbing the 600 North Bridge. There was input given that the department took about striping bike lanes and making that a safer facility for peds and bikes. And that was included into the project because of the public comments received. And very appreciative of all the efforts that the department takes to continue to improve on the projects as well as each of the local governments. Incidentally, if it's a local government project, those comments will also be shared with the project sponsor so that we're getting the best information for each project we're working on. But you can leave a comment specific, or you can go back and there's a general comment that you can leave on the overall, like, gee, Ben, your tie looked really nice today. No, that's not, but you can leave a general comment and that information will also be included. Now, in addition, on this website, you also can go directly to the tip tables. And this is, well, these are the tables of all the projects in the tip. And for your convenience, the first few pages after the introduction page in that, we can scroll down and you see all of the STP program. Now, this is both the Ogden-Layton and the Salt Lake West Valley urban areas. So you can go through all the STP projects just by themselves. You can see how things are programmed out, where we are. The projects that are highlighted in dark blue are the new projects that were recommended from the TAC committees that were reviewed and approved by TransCom and the regional council. And then after the STP programs, we got the congestion mitigation, air quality program or CMAQ program, same idea, same layout. And then after the CMAQ is the TAP program or the Transportation Alternatives Program, same format. That's so you can see those projects that the committees have recommended, the ones that we are directly responsible for. Then in addition are all the other projects that are funded with other federal or state funds as well as the transit funds. Now, the STP projects, the CMAQ, you can keep scrolling, Bill, and the TAP projects are all also included in the EPM tables. This is the program that UDOT uses to program the projects or display the projects that are programmed. So all those projects in those prior lists will also show up in these tables here. We just include that as an insert so that you can go directly to your project in a simplified manner. So please take an opportunity here in the next few days, spend some time with your family and friends, go through the interactive map, look at the list of projects and leave some comments. It is our intent then, unless there's any input from this body, our intent is to let the public review and comment period conclude on the 30th, prepare those summaries and get that information both to UDOT, UTA, and then prepare that for TransCom and the regional council. Upon final approval of the Transportation Improvement Program, there will be a list. It'll be available on all the comments received and the responses that are given, as well as a summary of all of the public comments received. So that would be the what's out for public review right now, as well as the air quality conformity analysis for the Transportation Improvement Program that is also out for public review and comment right now. Before I conclude this section, Wayne, would you like to share a comment summary on the comments received to date?
You bet. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so just several themes in the comments that were received. So far, about 80 comments have been received. And to summarize those themes, there's a desire from those that commented to that more protected bike lanes be funded. In other words, protected by concrete barrier or grade separation. So a desire for more separated bike facilities. And along a similar line, there's a desire for safe and connected pedestrian and bicycle facilities and infrastructure, including at crossings. There was support expressed for the separated bike facilities that are currently funded as part of the TIP. And there were also requests for more transit service and transit, as well as transit improvements. And there were comments made expressing a desire for increasing transit capacity rather than roadway capacity. And then finally, there were requests for specific safety improvements. And that kind of gives you a sense of the majority of the comments received to date. Any questions?
Thank you, Wayne. So then the last.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. Then the last bullet then under the Transportation Improvement Program business is the process or the schedule for the 2024-2029 TIP process. This process will initiate at the latter or the end of August with the council recommending that we go ahead and initiate that process, requesting letters of intent, which will potentially be due back to us by the end of September, 1st of October. That date has not been firmed yet. And then from that point, we'll prepare and make a request for the project concept reports, which will be due back by the middle of part of December. And we'll begin that process for the 2024-2029 TIP. Any questions on any of the TIP items? That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. Skipping item 3, we'll move to item number 4, traffic forecast tool by Bill here.
Okay, thanks. Let me start sharing my screen here. Okay, today I'm going to talk about the traffic volume interactive web map. And just so you know how to get to it in the future, if you don't have the link, just go maps and data here at our W4C website, maps and data, maps, map gallery. Click on that and this will show all of our maps. And the traffic volume map is right here. So I've been told to be quick. I'll try to be as quick as I can. So if you have any questions while I'm talking, if I talk too fast or jump too quickly around, just let me know and I'll try to answer questions or slow down. But first of all, here's the map, the presentation, you get 2 on the side panel here. So I'm going to have 3 slides kind of introducing forecasting, and then I'll jump into a live demonstration of the map after that. So here we go. So hopefully you've all seen this before, but this kind of summarizes all the data that we have at WFRC and all this, and the 2 models we use, travel demand model, the land use model, to produce forecasts for the future. And the forecasts include traffic volumes and speeds, city and TAS growth, urban form, air quality. And this traffic volume map displays the forecasts for traffic volumes in the basic version, and then there's an advanced version of the app for us power users that will show the city and TAS growth, so socioeconomic growth. So first, a background on forecasting. These are all road forecasts are done for roadway segments, and the segmentation is defined by the UDOT ADT segments, so the traffic volume segments. There are 8,000 of these segments statewide. For the WFRC area, there are about 2,800. So it's a lot easier to show forecasts at this level rather than the 15,000 travel demand model links that we have. So it's a much easier, a much user-friendly way to look at forecasts than to look at the raw model results or information in that way. The forecasts are done at the AEDT level. The travel demand model spits out, or it gives you weekday traffic, Tuesday through Thursday, but then we do adjustments to get it to an average annual daily travel number, and that's more consistent with traffic engineering principles to look at a average annual traffic number that you can then adjust with factors. The forecasts are produced for each year of the RTP and also for the TIP year, 2024. So we have for 2030, 2040, 2050, each of the phase years. And the forecasts, we begin with the 2019 observed volumes. So the observed traffic from UDOT from their reported AEDTs. And then the future years we start with the model volume differences. So we'll look at the difference in the travel demand model from 2019 to 2050. And we'll take that difference in volume and add it to the observed volume. So these are adjusted volumes that we start with. And then we make further adjustments based on the reasonableness of the volumes. We don't just take the model output and make that forecast, but we look at changes in the facility, changes in adjacent roadway networks. We look at the historical trends. There are also model idiosyncrasies that come into play, so we correct for those, and then we do some smoothing. So we go through each segment one by one and make sure that the forecasts are reasonable. And then this map is combined with, so we take the WFRC forecast and combine it with the MAG, UDOT, and other MPOs, and it's all in one app. So you can look at forecasts for St. George area, for the Cache County area, so statewide. One caveat there is other parts of the state don't have forecasts prepared for all the interim years available. So sometimes you'll only see 2019 and 2050. But for a WFRC and MAG, we have all the years. Okay, just a basic background into, or basic introduction or background into forecasting. Here are 2 segments, and here we are showing the AEDT, observed AEDT in blue from 2000 to 2019. And then we have a trend line that kind of shows if you extrapolate that in a linear trend, you can see what the trend would be into the future. And the red dots are the forecast and the model volumes. So in the left image, you can see for I-15 north of the I-215 interchange in Davis County, you can see the traffic volumes and the forecast. So the forecast matched the adjusted TDM volume. So we don't make any adjustments there. So it's pretty consistent. You can see it's pretty consistent with the linear forecast. You do see a dip in 2024, and that's mainly due to increased speed limit on the Legacy Parkway and the removal of the truck restrictions. Also one caveat, this is for daily trips. So sometimes the trip adjustments happen off peak. So the peak periods may have the same traffic, but off peak may not. So just remember some of the limitations of viewing data in this way. Then on the right, we have Sunset, Main Street and Sunset, that's in Davis County. And here we adjust some of the volumes from the TDM output, TDM adjusted volumes. We manually adjust 2024, we bump that up a little bit so it doesn't drop. And then in 2050, we also adjusted that up. And this comes after looking at the model and trying to understand why the model dropped and making manual adjustments to make it more reasonable using our engineering judgment. Okay, let's jump to the app. So this app has been around for a couple of years, so maybe you've seen it. It was last updated in December when the version 8.3.2 of the travel demand model is released. And so it has some updated volumes forecasts based on that version of the model. First of all, the map opens with an about window up on the right-hand side. Here you'll see the notes regarding the release. You'll see who to contact for questions. So Susie Swim at WFRC will answer questions in the WFRC area. Tim Harris, my brother at MAG, in the MAG area. And then Stephanie Tomlin at UDOT. And then if you want to download the data and make your own maps, there's the data sets to get all the raw data to this map. And that panel you can open and close with the information button at the top right. Okay, hopefully moving quick enough here. Hopefully I haven't lost anyone, but we will look at this map. There are two versions. There's the basic version, which is the initial version that opens, and then there's the advanced. And you can toggle between them. Up at the top, there's this toggle. And you can see that the advanced version will open up 3 different ways of viewing or options in viewing the data. First is traffic forecasts. And this has ADT and ADT change. So the first set of data is the forecast for that year. And you can toggle between the years and the map will update. The cooler colors, blue and green, are the lower volumes, and the orange and red, the warmer colors, are higher volumes. And the higher the volume, the thicker the line. So you can see I-15 stands out pretty well in Salt Lake County. And then as you zoom in, you'll also be able to see the labels should start to populate. So you can see I-15 here, just north of the interchange, has a volume in 2030 of 253,000. In 2050, that jumps up to, looks like the label might be hid. So if you click on it, you can get more information. And so for I'm on a frontage road. Let's go. So in 2050, the forecast is 282,000. So as you click on a segment, it will show the ADT volumes, just like those charts we saw previously, show the observed data through 2019, and then it'll show the forecast through 2050. You can also view the data. You can access segments by selecting the route number. So if you know you're on Highway 89, US 89, you can select that, and you can pick between the different segments there. And that will auto zoom to those segments. Yes. If you turn on your mic, then others can hear. Awesome.
Just a general question, as far as which roads are mapped on here. Are they just functional arterials or higher?
So this map includes all state and federal roads, and also federal aid routes. And then, so that's most collectors and arterials are included in this. So you won't find a lot of local roads. We also add future segments. So Mountain View Corridor extending north, we have those segments. So any planned roadways are also in here. So these are typically the segments that are in the travel demand model. Okay, so that's the first section of ADT. We also have ADT change. This is my favorite section because you can see the change in volumes between years. So here, Salt Lake Valley, between 2019 and 2024, you can see some changes in traffic volumes. You can see a lot more volume. You can see more volume on Mountain View Corridor. And then because the Mountain View Corridor extension up to California has opened, by 2024, you'll see those segments. So that's a high increase there, and you'll see the corresponding decrease on 56 West. And then the side streets or the east-west routes that correspond with that show decreases. On I-15, there was a lane added in the south, just south, new lanes on I-15. So you'll see Redwood Road and 2700 West have dropped in state. So, and then you'll see other new connections. That's a good way to see the changes. And you can see as we go through time, Bangerter here 2024 to 2030, Bangerter is now a freeway. So you see the drop on I-215 and the north-south routes there. 2040, we have more facilities, Highland here. So those changes. And then finally 2050. So in Magna, you get this new connector on the west side. So that's a good way to visualize the model output. And then there is a 2019 to 2050. So today to 2050, you can see Redwood Road is in the model has lower volume than today because of all the north-south improvements, as well as 56th West. So that's the basic version. We'll jump into the advanced version by looking at population and employment forecasts. Turn off the traffic layer here. So here we have, you can see for socioeconomic data, you can see population, households, employment. Typical employment means total employment, meaning retail, industrial, and office. It does not include mining or other agricultural jobs. But this will show you the employment forecasts for 2050. You can look at total per TAS, or you can look at a density, which will show the concentration on I-15 and in Daybreak and in the northwest quadrant. You can also see the changes in socioeconomics. So 2015 is the base year of socioeconomic data. You can see the growth up in the northwest and the southwest part of the counties and up down by Point of the Mountain. You can see that growth. You can go year by year and see where it's projected to grow each time, or each year. And then you can also see density changes. So 2015, you can see the densification in Sandy, Daybreak, Point of the Mountain, and western Utah, Salt Lake County. You can click on any TAS and get more information. So if you zoom in here to Daybreak, and let's click on one of these empty TASs here. Oh, sorry. You have to click select TASs from map, and then you can click on a TAS. And that will give you information for that specific TAS. So you can zoom down. We don't want density, we just want the total numbers. So you can see the employment. There are 661 typical jobs in that TAS in 2050. You can select multiple TASs. So let's select, I don't like this auto zoom as much, so I'll turn that off. So you can get a more localized, a wider forecast for that, for those TASs. You can see in 2050, there are 66,000 jobs in those TASs. You can also see, you can also select by county and city. So if you want to see for, let's see, Salt Lake County, let's see, let's do Mill Creek. I turned off auto zoom, so I'll have to zoom out myself. So here's the TASs that comprise the city area, or Mill Creek. You see the change in jobs and in, for that area, and households, population. So a good way to look at an area and get a feel for changes in households and socioeconomics. So this provides context to the traffic volumes. If you want to see like why volume is increasing in a certain area, you can look at the socioeconomics and get a better idea. You can also turn on projects and see the phasing of the projects. This is just a copy of our data from other maps. So you can see by phase, you can see the roads by phase, phase 1, phase 2, and get an idea of when certain projects come online that may affect traffic volumes. Okay, and then just to put a plug in for, so this data is updated with each RTP forecast, new RTP. So we're currently in the development of the 2023 RTP. And so we are also preparing new socioeconomic forecasts based on a 2019 base year. So those forecasts, we have drafts of those forecasts. So if you want to review some of those forecasts for your city or for your area, you can go in here, see the forecast. This is a similar map where you can get more information at the TAS level. And then if you want to make a comment for specific TAS, you can click the TAS and submit feedback, and you can put your email address, submit a comment, and we'll consider the comment as we prepare the final forecasts for socioeconomics for the next RTP. So that's my presentation, a lot of information. Hopefully you were able to follow along, but if you need to go back, there's a presentation online you can follow. And if you have any questions right now, I'd be happy to answer any.
Thanks, Bill. Any questions for him? I'll give a moment for people to gather their thoughts and unmute. All right, looks like you answered all their questions. So this is a great tool. Just watching you go through it, I'm thinking of 5 different scenarios where this would be great to pull up in discussions with residents, council members, and developers. So I see a lot of value in this. Thank you. Moving on, item number 5, it's a discussion item on fiscally constrained phasing with the RTP group.
Thanks, Ryan. Can everybody hear me okay? Looking for a thumbs up or a wave.
We're good.
All right, good. Thank you for allowing us to present to the TransCom TAC. We're splitting this up with Julie Bjornstad and myself, George on our long range planning group at WFRC. So let's jump in. Julie's got the presentation up, so we'll go from there. A quick reminder, and you guys have hopefully seen this slide quite a bit of times, but the Wasatch Choice vision is virtually a 3-legged stool where economic development, land use, and transportation feed up to the overall regional vision. The RTP is the transportation leg of that. And, you know, as you all apply for funding and look for priorities, hopefully they're in line with this regional transportation plan that I'll get into a little bit more detail. We use the 10 goals that you see on the side. Those are the Wasatch Choice goals. We use those throughout the entire Wasatch or the entire RTP planning process. They are used from project selection, phasing, identifying needs, etc. We use all those 10 goals. Julie, next slide. The plan is made up of all modes of transportation. So active transportation, walking and biking, roadways, transit, and the connection to land use and the population and employment that Bill just showed you all. So it's that tied. You can see that in that top layer there. We do it, the plan, update or revisit it every 4 years. So nothing's ever set in stone. The last plan, as you can see here, is 2019. And we've had that for almost 3.5 years. So we are on the last leg of developing the 2023 plan. It's financially constrained, meaning it's not just a wish list of projects. It does include all the needs, but not all needs are met in the time frame that they are needed. And you guys know that you had a previous conversation earlier about you know, costs going up, not enough revenue, things like that. And Julie will go into a little bit more detail later about each of the modes and where we're at with the 2023 plan. And it has to conform to our air quality budgets. And so Kip Billings there in the room does our air quality conformity for us and works with the interagency consultation team and Federal Highways and FTA and helps us put together that report. It's broken into 3 financially constrained phases. So phase 1 in this plan will be 2023 to 2032, phase 2, 2033 to 42, and phase 3, 2043 to 50. You don't see the other bucket there. As I made mention, we don't have, and we never have had, enough money for all the projects. And so there is an unfunded bucket that will have to use as we develop the financially constrained plan that some projects will go into. They'll be needed, but just there won't be enough revenue. The next slide, you can see our last couple years timeframe. So just as a quick reminder, a bunch of you helped us look at external forces and policies. These included connected and autonomous vehicles, drones, high-speed transit, micro mobility solutions, road usage charges, street connectivity, things like that. So there were over 20 forces and policies we explored. We took quite a bit of feedback and input, and we've actually moved about 4 or 5 of those forward, and they're going to be included in our travel demand model and our planning assumptions. So one thing that, as you can see here, I'm working from home. Teleworking, quite a bit different than when we even started exploring these and even toying with it. Quite a big difference from what's in our previous plan, which has a decent impact on travel patterns. We drafted a preferred scenario this last winter with your help. Needs-based phasing was the last piece that we just recently completed with your help. We shot out comments for that just this last spring, and now we're at financial constraint that we'll be working on this summer with an outlook to, and this fall, meeting with you all, your mayors, county commissioners, city managers, city council, planning commission, economic development directors, planners at our fall workshop. So look for an invite in the next few weeks on those. With the outcome of adopting the plan in 2023 May. Next slide, Julie. A little bit more detail on those workshops. There were 8 of them, so you can see the ones in Salt Lake County here. We have a northern Salt Lake County, the southwest and southeast. We're going to stay with those same areas. They seem to work out pretty well. And most all of our interaction now, as you can see on the right side there, and what Bill showed you all, are on interactive maps that allow for commenting project details. They can be live, so we can update them as needed. And so that's been really helpful in this planning process. Next slide, Julie. Those phasing criteria that I made mention that you all helped us review the phasing of the needs were, like I made mention earlier, developed through the Wasatch Choice goals. And we had a set of criteria for active transportation, a set for roadway, and a set for transit. Projects were all scored, very data intensive, but a good process that really moved projects and showed us where the priorities were. But we did not rely only on this project evaluation and needs criteria, similar to what Ben and Wayne and Kip and others do there when you evaluate your transportation improvement program projects. The score isn't the last and only thing that we look at. We took, like I said, your input and feedback. Next slide, Julie. And as you can see here, we took over 100 comments on the roadway project, 60 plus comments on transit, and over 130 on active transportation. So we are pushing nearly 300 comments on the draft needs plan. So appreciate your look and review. Hopefully we were able to get back a hold of you, have some either email dialogue, one-on-ones, or just able to make the change. As we move forward, we have been developing a financial model, and this model is probably one of the only ones that is done this way in the entire nation, where we work with the other 3 MPOs in the state, we work with UDOT, and we work with UTA, and we identify all transportation revenues and expenditures for the road, transit, and active transportation for all projects. In the 2019 plan, this exceeded $108 billion of transportation needs from new infrastructure, to maintaining the current system we have, to operating our current system, and operating and maintaining future expansions to the system. Not all of that falls within the RTP. Again, we are mostly looking at capacity within our regional transportation plan for our list of projects, but the full unified plan looks holistically at all three of those modes in all of those categories. We've updated our growth rates for the revenue sources. We've updated our project costs and operating expenses to hopefully reflect more accurate project costs and assumptions into the future and those growth rates. We've looked at, do we assume new local option sales taxes as revenue, state funding with the inclusion of the new Transportation Investment Fund, active transportation, and the TTIP first last mile. And we've updated it for the IIJA, the federal programming of transportation funding. So all of that goes into that financial model. So that kind of high level overview on the process there. Any questions from anybody? If not, Julie will jump into kind of get into the details of the revenue and our costs for projects and assumptions for the 2023 plan by mode. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them on the process. If not, she'll move forward. All right, quiet group.
All right, so considering the available revenue, the existing available revenue, and then new assumed revenue that Dory had just mentioned, we're looking at just under $1 billion on the active transportation side for funding available for new capacity projects between now and 2030, about $18 billion on the roadway side, and then just over $5 billion on the transit side. I'm going to walk you through each of these modes and what that looks like compared to our need. So on the roadway side, you can see that we have about $25 billion through the three phases of need. In the first phase, that's about $14 billion. In phase two, that's about $6 billion. And then in phase three, that's about $4.5 billion. When compared to the revenue that we have available, you'll see that phase one, that we have $14 billion in need, like I just said, and we only have about $8 billion in revenue. In phase two, we have about $6 billion. We have close to $10 million in need and about $6 billion in revenue. And then phase three, we have about $4 billion worth in revenue. So what happens is the funding that the projects that we can't fund in phase one with the available revenue will get pushed back to financially constrained phase two. Those projects we can't fund with phase two revenue get pushed back to phase three. And then what we can't fund in phases 2 or 3 will go to the unfunded phase. So because we have about $17.5 billion of funding available, but about $25 billion worth of need, you'll see on the roadway side that there's about $7.5 billion of unfunded projects. About $4.5 billion of that is on the UDOT or the state roadway side. About $3 billion of that is on the local side. On the transit mode, we have about $2.5 billion of need in phase one, about $6 billion of need in phase two, and then about $3 billion of need in phase three, for a total of about $12 billion worth of need. And this includes capital operations and state of good repair for transit. Compared to how much revenue is available, again, we'll take what's not able to be financially constrained in phase one based on need, push that back to phase two, take some of that phase two need, push it back to phase three, and so on. And so you see that we only have about $5.5 billion worth of revenue for transit, but we have about, like I said, $12 billion worth of need. So it'll be about $7 billion worth of unfunded transit capacity operations and maintenance. And that's operations and maintenance of new transit capacity that we have planned in the RTP. On the active transportation side, you'll see that over half of the needs are in phase one, and that's partially due to the fact that our active transportation system compared to our road and transit is maybe less mature. And so there's a lot of existing need to kind of build out that network to meet existing demand. On the active transportation side, we have about $600 million of need in phase one, about $250 million of need in phase two, and then about $240 million of need in phase three, for a total just over $1 billion of active transportation needs. So these are trails, bike lanes, protected bike lanes, sidewalks, etc. Compared to the revenue available, and this is the first time that we've tried to financially constrain the active transportation plan. In phase one, we have just about $150 million revenue. So you can see that even right there, it's about $450 million of unfunded need. In phase two, we have about $320 million of funding, and in phase three, we have about $240 million. So even though phase two looks like we have more money than need, and phase three looks like we have even need in revenue, we still have all of that unfunded phase one need that needs to get pushed back and paid for in phases two and three. So overall, on the active transportation side, there's about $400 million of unfunded projects. So what we're asking your help with today, and hopefully we presented this to the planners a week or two ago. Hopefully they shared it with you. But what we're asking for your help with today is to review our financially constrained phasing. We'll send this link out in the chat, Jory, if you could, and then also in a follow-up email for you to review phasing by August 5th. And in particular, note where projects may be paid for by developers. That developer funding can help us meet financial constraint as well. I'll walk you through what this map looks like. It's pretty cool. Now, our analytics team has updated the way you can filter projects. So you can see that you can filter the projects by mode, so road, transit, active transportation, but you can also filter by the type of project. So new construction, additional lanes, different types of transit modes, different types of active transportation facilities, limit them to just UDOT facilities if you want. You can even filter by the cost of project. And then you can also filter by the phase. So this is financially constrained or fiscally constrained, phase 1, 2, and 3. You can do that by needed as well. And then again, filter by the type of project. To leave a comment, if you zoom in to a project, you can just click on the project. It will pop up here in the project information, give you the extent of the project, the cost, and then down here, if you to leave a comment, you can just put your name, organization, contact in the comment. It's really important that you leave this name and organization so that we can get back in touch with you in case you have a question or need to clarify anything about your comment. And then of course, press submit. And does anyone have any questions about how this map works or how to leave a comment? Okay, so yeah, we're asking for that to be done by, by August 5th, which is the end of next week. And then just in conclusion, Dory has mentioned that schedule before. We're looking to continue coordinating with cities and counties, UDOT and UTA through this fall. We're planning to go back out in those 8 workshops that we do yearly to look at the final fiscally constrained plan. And then we'll go to public comment this winter with the intent to adopt the next 2023 to 2050 regional transportation plan next May. In May of 2023. So unless there's questions, or Jory, do you have anything else to add?
The only thing I just emphasize, I think, again, is that, help us identify those developer funds that could help us update. We've got, I think, 100 new local type projects. We've reviewed almost all the transportation master plans that were approved since I think 2015 or 2019. So there's quite a few new projects. And so maintaining financial constraint is a little harder in this plan, especially with the cost going up as well. So help us look at that. Also, not as easy, as Julie explained, as identifying the needs, and we can just say, yes, a project looks good, it should be needed in this phase. As you make recommendations to move projects up or back, think of, especially if you want to move a project up at the higher priority, help us identify which projects that would move back, because we have to maintain that financial constraint. So it's the bucket's only so full for each of the phases, and so we're limited in that way. So that's going to be, if you don't help us out with that in your comments, then we're going to be following up in emails and other conversations with you.
I think that concludes us, honorary chair Kump.
Thanks, Julie. Any feedback or questions, comments for Jory or Julie? All right, it looks like we're all impressed, so thank you. We will all vow to get in there and make comments before August 5th. I'm making that commitment on behalf of everyone I see logged in right now. Okay, that is it for the presentation items. Moving on to item number 6, other business. Does anyone have anything they want to bring before the TAC for the group? Otherwise, we will adjourn. The next meeting will be October 19th. Salt Lake City will provide a project report, and that concludes this meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.